Live and a very good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning in again to another episode of Streaming School. It feels like I've been away for a while doing bits and pieces, but really all I've been doing is putting together a huge parenting course to share with parents out there and lots of well wishes and friends and hopefully schools and then beyond, because lockdown is here to stay, at least for some of the schools. So hopefully we're going to put out some good advice. We're really pleased that this is getting thousands of views a day on all the different platforms and areas that it goes out to, and that is because of the wonderful people who are involved in it, like Nisha and Mr. Action Jackson, who are with us this morning. A very good morning to you both.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, really well. I know I've actually gone a minute over already, Action, so I'm going to flip straight to you, buddy. The floor is yours. Really looking forward to your morning and getting going.
Excellent stuff. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday. Woo-hoo. I don't know what that means. I believe it's Bank Holiday Monday of some sort. Is it Bank Holiday Monday this Monday? I think so. But
all you did was highlight everyone's ignorance. Me and Nisha like, oh.
Well, you know, we've been on holiday for the last God knows how long. But welcome each and every one of you. My name is Action Jackson. It's such a pleasure to have you here with me today. If you've never tuned into the free streaming school, well, I'm here to motivate you. That's my job as a motivational speaker, to put a smile on your face. I've been doing this now for the last 20 years. I love every minute of it because someone said, find something you love doing and build your life around it. And I think that's the best career advice you can give to someone is find something you love doing and build your career around it. Because when you love doing it, you're not going to moan. I mean, I go on the London Underground and people like, well, before the lockdown, and you can see people on the train. Where you going? Back to work. Where you coming back from? Work. Why you upset? Work. Why you happy? I got paid today. And I thought to myself, there was no way I'm only going to be happy on payday. I wanted to be happy every single day. But that's why I'm doing what I am doing. So today, we're going to get straight into it, ready to motivate you. But I'm not going to motivate you without this guy in the background. I feel good. Wait. Oh, my glasses out. Come on now. You got the belt. So good. I love you. Thank you, James Brown. Woo! Listen, there's nothing greater than feeling good about life. Very quickly today, I want to teach you 10 steps on how to pass your exams. I know. You're probably saying, exams, what are you talking about? Listen, Will Smith said something to me. Yeah, he said it to me. Okay, he said it on a YouTube video, and I took it back. Right? Will Smith said, it's better to stay ready than to get ready. I thought, what are you talking about, Bill? It's better to stay ready than to get ready. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help you to stay ready. So when those exams come around the corner, boom, you're ready to attack them. So I'm sure the wonderful Nisha's going to help me share my screen here. I'm going to share with you some amazing slides. Follow each and every step. And if you do, you are guaranteed to pass your GCSEs. Well, yep, this is me here, the amazing Action Jackson. Good looking. My mom thinks I'm good looking. I really do believe that. You know. 10 ways to pass your exams. Number 1, please have a cut-off time for social media. Social media has now become the drug of choice right now, and people are indulging on it a lot. But you've got to learn to balance those times, so that you're not overdoing it with social media. Number 2, I want you to list 12 reasons why you want to pass your exams. Maybe they're, months away. It doesn't matter. Start listing reasons why you want to pass. Because the reason why most students lose motivation is because they don't have that conscious reason why they want to pass. Do you want to pass for your parents? Do you want to pass for your friends? Do you want to pass for yourself, for your future? Whatever your reason is, write it down and make sure there's 12 of them. Number 3, create a question book. What's a question book? It's a book of questions. As you're working through these questions and you're not sure about something, write it down and write the name of someone who can help you out next to it. Why? The more you've got questions that you need to ask someone, once you turn the questions into answers, boom, you're all the way there. Number 4, please set aside time for assignment. I know we've got lots of time on our hands, and the tendency to be sitting there watching all sorts on Netflix is there. So set aside assignment time. That doesn't get interrupted. That's going to really help you. Ooh, I love this. Number 5, say the power statement 12 times. What is this power statement? I am amazing. I can do this. I am amazing. I can do this. I am amazing. I can do this. Why is positive thinking and positive words important? When you say things that are positive, it sends a message to your brain. I am amazing. I can do this. It's a way of getting yourself in the zone. If you've ever watched sportsmen and women, they always psych themselves up before they go out there. And this is a way of psyching yourself up. Number 6, I want you to create an exam timetable of everything that you need to do, and please make sure you follow it. Number 7, document all the teacher's instruction. Every instruction you're given, make sure you document it. Why? If you document it, you're more likely to follow it. But if you just leave it in your head, you could forget. And I love this number 8. Make a list of your own personal responsibilities. So you got to get organized. Life is all about different tasks, but the more you got on your list, the more you're able to get through it. I love number 9. Create a playlist of positive songs. Why do you need positive songs? Well, music is a way to make you feel good. So when you're feeling down, music will just lift you up. Oh yeah. Okay? So that's what music does. It lifts your spirit. And number 10, create a dream team. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one. Show me your team and I'll tell you your grade. Show me your team, I'll tell you your happiness. Show me your team, I'll tell you how much money you're going to make in the future. You are as good as your team. Who are the people you have around you to motivate you, to inspire you, to keep you going? So I hope these 10 steps have helped you to get ready for the future. If you want more motivation and stuff, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Action Jackson Live. Come say hello. Come say hello. Thank you so much. Back over to my amazing teammates at Free Streaming School.
Thank you so much, Action. Really, really good to have your input again this morning and obviously share some wisdom with us. Thank you very, very much. You're going to say good morning and thank you, Mr. Jackson?
Good morning.
And thank you.
Good morning, darling. How you doing? I love your t-shirt. It's amazing. Can I borrow it?
This is Layla, this is the middle one. If you ask Amira, the eldest one, she might, but this one,
all right.
This one's the one that's the keeper, right? You're the keeper. Have a great day, Action. Thanks a
You
lot,
too, mate. Take care. How you doing, Michael?
Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
You too.
That's exactly what I was going to say, but hey, that's how the cookie crumbles. Good morning, Mike. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm really good. Really good. I'm still getting used to literature now being on a Friday rather than Wednesday. You know, you start to get a mantra going. But yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to another session today.
That would be a mad mantra. Literature on Wednesday. Literature on Wednesday. Literature on
Wednesday. I used to always have, because my birthday's the 6th of June, I always used to have exams on my birthday every time. So, you know, sometimes you have people that, everyone's got friends where if you don't turn up for their birthday or make a big deal out of it, then basically that's you cut for the rest of your life. Because I always had exams, I only ever know my birthday to be associated with a time of revision and a time of basically sitting in a room for 3 hours trying to write whatever I remember about poetry or history or whatever it was I was doing at the time.
Have you been drinking this morning?
No, I'm just high on literature. That's the fact. I'm creating an ambiance of exam revision because actually we should be, let's not forget, we should be in the middle. Today would have been a literature exam, an English exam.
Really?
So we are, you know, it's weird to think that this, for many of us, many students, and those of us that are taking it next year or whatever it might be, this is that period of time that all teachers, I loved it because it's a case of right now it's time to deliver. Now let's see what you guys can do.
Yeah, it's a really proud time, but really, really proud time. So when is your birthday?
Same day as D-Day, guys, 6th of June. But that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like it always falls into the point I'm making there is not to drop it in. It's kind of it's this whole period of time is to do with exams. So whenever I think about my birthday, and I've always been a teacher as well. So I've never known a period of time around my birthday which isn't actually all about everybody else and about their exams and their futures.
Well, the card I'll send you for your birthday will remind you that you are a unique and individual snowflake. So you'll feel special on that birthday.
I thought he was going to send me a test or something.
That's the only good news I've heard about Corona since Corona's been up and alive, buddy. That you will feel less exam-y pressure on your birthday. That is a horrible thing to do.
Well, that's one. Yeah, that's one thing, isn't it? It's one thing. But in a lot of ways, I don't sound terrible. I'd rather we were talking about the exam today and things like that because, you know, that's just the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, buddy, after that strange intro and the musical interlude from wonderful, wonderful Laylu, do you want us to switch your screen or do you want us to start on your beautiful bow-tied neck?
Yeah, is it on my? Oh, you can see my face going, not just my neck, just being clear. I might be that close to the camera that all I'm doing now is showing the larynx part of my anatomy.
It's why people are tuning in, Mike. It's like that larynx.
Yeah, we'll start
literature. Your new YouTube channel, Larynxing My Literature. All right, buddy. It's all yours.
Thank you very much. And yeah, good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. I don't know how I segued into that, but obviously, I look at the purpose of what we're doing today. I think about what we should be doing today, and it makes me realise that actually, for many of us now, we've got a great opportunity because we have a great period of time where if we focus and use that time well, then there's no reason why you won't absolutely fly in your exams whenever you're doing them in the future. So, Nish, can you move away from my face, which was made for radio, and onto my presentation, please?
All right, cool.
Thank you. So yeah, what I want to focus on today, so we've done this a couple of times now, and I want to make you aware that these resources are all going to be available on the Streaming School site. They're also available on my YouTube channel, the English Teacher channel. So what I think is really important is that we need to know certain things. You know, if you're going to pass an exam, it's not just about skill, turning up on the day. You have to know stuff in order to get the best possible mark. And for many of us, we'll be exploring the text in Inspector Calls. And if we're not, it's really interesting. But actually, the skills I'm going to show you now are the benchmark you need to achieve. So if you are watching this and you look and explore to the standard that I want you to, you can then apply this to the other texts as well. And obviously, I thought we'd start here with a little meme from, as you can see, last year's exams. That's where the segue comes from, obviously. All to do with Viva Smith and on Inspector Calls. Because what I want to do straight away here, as you can see, is move into, right, here's everything you now need to know. This is our aim today. I'm going to make sure that you've got a great grounding in the text so that you can take this and go and write any exam answer for any Inspector Calls question you may be asked to. So without further ado, again, feel free to screenshot this, watch this back and pause it, whatever you need to do. But essentially, what we have here is the minimum amount of context you'll need to achieve full marks. Remember, we've looked at how to write and use context in our essays. Please go back to that lesson if you are unfamiliar with it or wish to revise. But essentially, we need to look at the context. It's about 6 marks for most of our GCSE exam boards. So you're looking to put in each of the points you're making a sentence or two in relation to context. So first of all, let's think about J.B. Priestley himself. Well, he fought in the First World War, and he was therefore a witness to what he saw as the unfair treatment of the working class. Because as we know from the First and Second World War, millions died in both those conflicts. So obviously Priestley, who is a socialist, someone who wishes that we as a society look after each other more, and obviously that's no more pertinent than the time period in which we are currently living, then actually, if you remember, he is performing this play in 1945, 1946. So whilst it's set in 1912, 2 years before the First World War, and we'll get to that in a moment, he knows that the audience know that they are fresh from a conflict in which millions died because of the unfair treatment of others. So he's using that knowledge to make his point. And remember, the evaluation here, what is Priestley trying to do is he's trying to get his audience and the wider society to be more socialist, to care for one another more. As we said, he was a socialist, along with other famous writers at the time, like George Bernard Shaw and H.G. Wells, who some consider to be the godfather of science fiction, so War of the Worlds, Time Machine, that sort of thing. What's also important to note here, when we think about the notion of the socialist message and the voice for the working class, because remember, Viva Smith, Daisy Renton, represents the working class. Some may believe that she is one person who actually did have an interconnection with every member of the family, but it's far more likely she is symbolic of the working class. In the same way, it's far more likely that the inspector is a symbol of the voice of Priestley or the socialist message. So before 1900, there was no real party which was focused on helping the labouring class, the working class. So really those in power were the upper and middle classes. So that meant without a stronger voice, how are we able to change society? Hence why we have a socialist message here. It's also important to remember that in 1910, 1 out of 10 people in the UK were unemployed. So that obviously meant that there were a huge percentage, 10% of the entire population, if you like the maths there, needed support. They needed help. So again, this is why we had this message to help us protect others. In 1911, it got so bad that there were large-scale riots based on that unemployment, and actually the army were called out and people were killed in these protests. So you can hear, and well, hear in my voice, and I'm telling you, the anger of the working class. Why are you not helping us? Why are you being so ignorant? Can you, those of us that have studied Inspector Calls, can we hear that now being addressed in the play itself? In 1912, the Titanic sinks. So why does that matter? Why does that matter? And that's the same with all of this. So we know that Mr. Birling describes the Titanic as being unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. Now remember, if Viva Smith represents the working class, if the inspector represents the viewpoint of Priestley and the socialist message, well, the Birlings, Mr. Birling in particular, and Mrs. Birling as well, represent the middle and upper class, the capitalist aspect of society. And what Priestley's trying to do, this whole play, is trying to persuade you that capitalism, or the Birlings at least in their viewpoint, is wrong and socialism is right. So he has to attack the Birling family. He has to make us feel that they are wrong. So in Act 1, when Mr. Birling says there's no chance of war, the Titanic's absolutely unsinkable, it highlights how ignorant and wrong Mr. Birling is. So if he's wrong about that, well, why can't he be wrong about the way in which we treat others in society? So can you hear how we are using a historical event and Priestley is taking that to push his message? If we're writing about that in our essays in that way, we're going to be moving towards full marks. At A level, I will stand up and applaud you as well. And even at degree level, this is the kind of thing we need to make sure we're mentioning. I want the best for you guys. That's why I'm giving you the best. But we can see the Titanic here is also, so we're not finished yet, is a symbol of British empiric power. It was a symbol of how strong and how impressive we felt we were. But actually, it helps to highlight our arrogant self-belief in ourselves that is actually unfounded. We felt we were the best. Well, look what happened. We sunk. We sunk. Okay? So that's important to consider here, because obviously Priestley wants the message of capitalism to sink as well. As we mentioned already, we know the First and Second World War took place. We know that millions died in the war. We know that Priestley served in the conflict. We know that just a year after this was first performed in the UK, it's estimated around 55 million people died because of the conflict. Obviously, societies, we know it was in tatters. We had rationing in the UK. So, of course, there is a need to help support others. And that's exactly what an Inspector Calls is looking for us to do. But let's think about some of the key quotes now. So we now know the context, but actually, just as importantly, we now know how we can use context to push our essay writing viewpoint. What about some of the key quotes? So I'm not going to read all of these, but again, feel free to pause them when you wish. But highlighted in bold are the key quotes, and then we have some of the analysis as well. Because what I'm suggesting to you here is the best way to revise for literature is to get to a stage where you can copy from your brain and paste on paper. So let's say, for example, I have an essay which is talking about capitalism, selfishness, Mr. Birling. Well, all I need to really do here is memorize 4 or 5 good quotes and their analysis, and I can pretty much write them out in full sentences on a piece of paper, and I know I've got full marks. So for instance here, you're just the kind of son-in-law I always wanted. So what does that suggest? Well, Birling is only happy for himself and not his daughter, because remember, this is supposed to be the engagement party for his daughter. The personal pronoun I highlights the selfishness of the character. Also, we have the lexis, the word choice, wanted, which makes the character Gerald seem like a possession or a commodity that Mr. Birling can acquire. So again, it highlights that Gerald is something that can be purchased, that actually the personal pronoun highlights is only his self-interest which matters to him. So again, that means that we dislike Mr. Birling, that means we dislike capitalism, that means we're more likely to become socialist. The next quote we're going to look at here. For lower costs and higher prices. These are great grade 9 quotes. Why are they great grade 9 quotes? Because they allow us to analyze. Remember, if you only tell me the plot, you're going to be getting grade 4. When Mr. Birling talked about this and there's no quote, then we're going to be stuck in grade 4. As soon as we analyze, we're getting higher marks. So once again, highlights the selfishness, the arrogance, the cruelty of Mr. Birling, as he wishes to pay his employees less because your costs are your workers in order to earn more money for himself. So again, this is the opposite of Priest's socialist view, making Mr. Birling's capitalist view the villain. Because again, costs represent the working class. So Birling wants to lower, and you can actually use that in inverted commas, or reduce the working class for his own benefit, lower their status, lower their self-belief in order to raise his own aspirations. So we can see the difference there, the juxtaposition between the lowering of the working class and the hiring of his own self-interests. Then we've got 2 quotations here which link to the context that we've just spoken about. You're marrying at a very good time. Yes, a very good time. Or we know it's not the case. And obviously feel free to look at that analysis in due course. And we've just spoken about the Titanic as well. So notice here as well, here, a man has to make his own way, has to look after himself and his family too, of course. So let's look at the structure here. Birling places himself before his own family. A man has to look after his own way, look after himself and his family too, of course. So due to the hyphen here, so the hyphen we have here, remember we looked at hyphen and dashes before, so please go back to that lesson on punctuation if you need further advice. He's actually not only placing them at the end of his priority list, but a hyphen suggests they are loosely connected to his life. So again, what's the point here? Well, this makes the audience less likely to believe and actually like the character and therefore agree more with the socialist view. So notice we've looked at language, we looked at context, we then looked at structure here as well, haven't we, with the hyphen, and the syntax, the order in which this is placed in. And just to read, just to support the idea of the lower cost and higher prices, you might decide to use this quote instead. Well, it's my duty to keep labour costs down. So again, labour costs are the wages of the workers. So rather than helping them, the character is therefore suggesting it's his only job, his duty, the thing he must do to make his employees suffer. And obviously the lexical choice here, the word choice down, can also reflect the mood or the physical oppression of the working class as well. So we've got some great key quotes there to help support the representation of the character Mr. Birling. And whatever the theme might be, cruelty, selfishness, Mr. Birling, society, care, those 3 quotes with that analysis will give you a full mark essay for any of those particular questions. You just have to practice doing it. Well, what about Mrs. Birling then? So this isn't exhaustive. We're going to get through as much as we can do today, but the resources will be available at the end of this session as well. So here are a couple of key quotes for Mrs. Birling. I'm going to go straight this middle one, straight here. So notice, I consider I did my duty. So it is no surprise that the writer, because none of these characters are real, they don't exist, they are basically created by the author to create an impression and a viewpoint for us. So look how the character is mirroring the viewpoint of our husband by using the word duty. So once again, she is suggesting it is her role to not help Eva Smith, Daisy Renton. And spoiler alert, we know that she was the character pregnant with Mrs. Birling's grandchild. So she effectively killed her own grandchild, but she considered that she did her duty by doing that. Horrendous, horrendous. So can we see what Priestley is doing there? We are now shocked by her viewpoint. We are shocked by her. We are therefore shocked at capitalism. Therefore, Priestley is trying to make us more socialist. Then we look here. So, girls of that class. So once again, she's speaking condescendingly about the working class. She's talking about them in a demonstrative manner. So a demonstrative pronoun would be things like that or it. So, oh, what is that over there? Talking about an individual. That demonstrifies them, so if that's even a word. So demonstrative makes you sound like a monster. She's creating a sense of separation, isn't she? So the opposite of socialism, she's distancing herself from others. And ironically, the character speaks ill of the group of people that she was supposed to help. So remember, she is supposed to be the head of a charitable organization that helps girls of that class. There's no love, is there, in that particular line? It's very demonstrative, which is really important for us to remember as well. So moving forward slightly now. One last time, let's look at Inspector Gore, because I want to finish, obviously, on this last quote. And I can talk about his quote forever. There is probably no Inspector Gore's essay which will not use this quote. I'm not going to read all of it. Eva Smith has gone. Millions and millions of Eva Smiths and John Smiths. That's the notes that she represents the working class. With us, notice we've got the collective pronoun here. Their lives, their hopes and fears, their suffering and happiness intertwined. What we say and do. We don't live alone. Members of one body. And if we're responsible for each other, then we will not learn his lessons in fire, blood, and anguish. Okay? So, again, let's look at some elements of this. Again, obviously, the inspector is a vehicle for Priestley's view. We've got the collective pronoun us, highlighting that we should be working together. Link this to the fact of the First and Second World War when millions died. We've also got the notion of the metaphor intertwined, which suggests like a rope that we are connected. And just like a rope, we are stronger together. Because obviously, if the strands are together, then we grow together. Fire, blood, and anguish is obviously reference to 2 world wars, but it's actually also a religious note. Because in the book of Revelations, it talks about us learning our lessons in fire, blood, and anguish. So there's a suggestion here that there's a religious overtone. So by not acting, you are actually being sinful. So those of us who are undertaking Christmas Carol as well, it's the same kind of message, isn't it? If you do not change, you will go to hell, essentially, is what's being said, or whatever form of hell your particular faith believes in, of whatever kind. And that's some key things to remember there. So, Nish, do you mind turning back to my face, please?
All right, cool.
Thank you. So, obviously, there is no way we were going to explore the play in its entirety. But what I want to highlight to you today was the importance of knowing the text, know your grade 9 quotes, but just as importantly, memorize the grade 9 analysis. Because now, from what you've seen today, if I get a question on responsibility, well, look, I've got 2 Mr. Birling quotation I can easily use, 1 Mrs. Birling quotation I can easily use. Bring it back to the inspector's monologue at the end of Act 3. I've got the analysis that I need for each of those quotes there. I've memorized them. So I copy from brain, paste on paper, and I know I've got grade 9. It really is as simple as that, but it's the practicing, the memorization you'll need to do, which will be the key. So I hope that's useful. Obviously, this will be available on the Streaming School sites post this session. And of course, you can see that in full as well on my English Teacher channel. But guys, I hope it's been of use. Please apply that method to your other texts, because by doing that, you'll get the best mark possible.
Brilliant, Michael. Thank you so much, buddy. Really, really appreciate it. I hope Literature Friday wasn't too painful for you.
No, I always have a bit of literature.
And you've got a new course coming out soon, haven't you, Mike?
Yeah. So I've been doing some work on helping parents actually at home. So yeah, I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old and a barking dog, as you can hear probably. And I think all of us need help and support right now. But actually, a lot of us are doing the best job we possibly can. But if we get a little bit of support from people who have an educational background, the thinking here is that they got just a couple of tips that can help make that process easier on their lives and make the learning slightly more effective if it needs to be that way.
Brilliant, Mike. Thank you so much, buddy. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to speaking to you sooner rather than later. Nish, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I have presented my screen. So this is the first time I've done this in a couple of days.
Listen to her, Michael. I was in charge. I picked when things happened. Me. Same old story. Same old story.
So here is the, just going to move over that. Here is the task for English literature today. It is revise the key quotes and analysis for an inspector call. And that should be very, well, Mike's session should be very helpful for that task today. If you want to catch up on anything, you can on YouTube and Facebook. And up next, we have maths.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to you both. I will see you guys shortly.
Thanks.